Hey, all right. So, how y'all doing tonight, or today, I should say? Um, Ahmed Med Haamid with Iota Phi Theta Fraternity New Omega chapter here in Greensboro, North Carolina. The Gate City Iotas. Definitely check us out. You can find us at gatecityiotas.org. And we're here tonight. We're going to be talking about a little bit of men's mental health, men's health, um, to celebrate, or I guess, yeah, celebrate. We want to celebrate Men's Mental Health Month.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that we put getting information out there to the men in our community and to the people out there because this is an important thing in our community, especially our community with the men, because healthy men build healthy communities. So we definitely want to make sure we're doing things to help out and get better ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So this men's health week, where we're going to be doing the Gate City Iotas, and of course, as you see on Candice Dixon, owner, CEO, therapist of Breaking Cycles Counseling. We're going to invite you to join us on the serious conversations focused on men's health and wellness. And one of the main questions we're going to ask is, man, how are you really doing?
Yes.
This man's health week. And we're challenging men to prioritize their physical, mental, and emotional health. Join us as we have this conversation, share resources, and encourage one another to become stronger men for ourselves, our families, and our communities. Your health matters, your life matters. So what we want to do is we want to start off tonight or today with this conversation. We want to start off introducing our guest who's going to be talking tonight. So we want to start off with introducing her. Miss, can you introduce or tell us a little bit about you?
Hey everybody. I am Candice Dixon. I'm glad to be here to talk about men's mental health. I am a wife, a mother, a friend, a daughter. I'm all those things, including a therapist, including people that a person like to work in the community. But I'm also just a person that loves to talk and help people with having healthier lives and being a healthier version of themselves. So that's who I am, I guess, in a nutshell. I like to do different things. I like to bowl. I like to watch movies, and I like to do a lot of things. Spend time with my family. Go on vacations if I can. So that's just a little bit of who I am. Just a little bit.
Oh, that's great. That's what we say. We want to know you're human. That's all. That
That's
sounds great.
it. Because I
That's
am.
it. Regular
Very
person.
much.
That's it. Yeah, yep. Because a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times when you say, everybody hits therapy or therapy or something like that, they think
Hmm.
of, they start thinking all these crazy things, but you just a, regular human person living life. So,
Exactly.
so we want to ask a few questions because this is what we're here for.
Hmm.
Ask questions, answer questions, and get a
Hmm.
little bit of information about how can we get better as me, especially as men. How can we get better? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a few questions. I'm gonna start off with the first question. Many men were raised to be strong and not show emotions.
Hmm.
How has that mindset? Do you feel that mindset has affected men's mental health?
Well, I mean, I think that's a really good question. One, because the phrase be strong is very intergenerational, meaning, it is passed down from family member to family member, and then it has become a core belief in the family, a value in the family, right? And so being strong, often the way that it is usually interpreted as to not show emotions, to suppress them. But what we don't realize is even though you may suppress, you're suffering in silence because those feelings do not go away. They don't disappear just because you don't talk about it. Just because you woover over it does not mean that they're going to go away. So it definitely impacts men's mental health because everything that you do not allow yourself to release internalizes. So it turns into anger, it turns into irritability, it turns into depression, it turns into anxiety, it turns into impulsivity, you making decisions without thinking through, so being
Hmm.
able to be strong, it doesn't allow you to be vulnerable. It doesn't allow you to be able to ask for help or think that you can. But being strong often has been considered to be weak. But if we can turn what the definition of being strong is me doing courageous things instead of
Right.
suppressing. So if you think of just doing courageous things, meaning asking for help when you need it, that is courageous because that's the one thing that you don't want to do and you're going to do it anyway. That is showing a sign of wisdom, so
Hmm.
you're being wise. You're using your smarts per se. So if you're a smart person, you definitely want to ask for help because that's when you're truly utilizing your wisdom.
Right. That's good. That's good. So how can men recognize the difference between normal stress and a mental health concern that requires support? And then what are some common signs that a man may be struggling emotionally but not realizing it? Like what?
Hmm. So with your first question, well, stress is normal, right? When you're
Hmm.
adjusting to a new boss at your job, that's a different level of stress, right? When your child comes home with a C, that is, stress. If you've got household duties that you need to do, washing the dishes, doing your laundry, that is normal stress. When it becomes an issue, a mental health issue, that means it is somehow impacting your daily life. So if it is impacting how you sleep, if it's impacting how your relationships are with people, if it's impacting how you are working, are you meeting your deadlines? Are you being productive? That is when it becomes a mental health issue because then it turns, when we go back to being strong and suppressing our emotions, then it turns into
Right.
those things that I talked about earlier when we internalize. And so they can also turn into physical symptoms, and so paying attention to if your body is always tense, that is a sign that it's more than just the normal stress. Also, another way to think of it is when your stress has been resolved or improved, but you're still having issues with how you feel and what's happening physically, then we know that it has turned into a mental health issue.
Right. Why do you think men wait until crisis before seeking help? Like what, like you just said all those things, right? But
Mhm.
do you most men, and we know this, most men don't wait. It's like with their physical health, they wait until literally they're stopped and dropped before they do something. But why do you
Yeah.
think most men do that? Like
Yeah.
wait.
Well, I think it goes back one to the mentality of being strong. It has been interpreted as you are weak if you're asking for help, but I also think too men has been raised to fix problems, not to ask for help, to survive and not know how to heal. And so oftentimes you go into fixer mode or you go into survival mode when
Hmm.
you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, and so that's when it becomes a crisis, right? That's when, they struggle, men struggle with asking for help prior to, because all you really know is survival and to be the fixer, to be the problem solver. Men is supposed to be the one that knows everything, that takes care of all the things. That's the provider that knows how to do this and know how to do that. So being able to say, I don't know how to handle this, to them may feel like a sign of weakness, but it also could be just a fear, a fear of what the it'll look like by you seeking help, right? It
Hmm.
could be also like a lack of emotional vocabulary, meaning not knowing what to call it, what you're feeling, not knowing how to express your feelings. Again, that being strong mentality does not give you the space to express your feelings. So, therefore, if that is a core belief that has been broken down from generation to generation, you are accustomed, to not asking for help until you have truly broken down instead of
Right.
being preventative, right? So
Hmm.
it's really difficult, and it's really important to know what we've learned and what we've been raised in doing and learning in a consistent thing, because it really does impact how we respond to stress and to abnormal stress.
Right. That leads us to something that me and you were talking about a little bit earlier before we
Uh-huh.
actually started. getting this video is like, with a lot of men, you say the word therapy, therapist, or anything in that counselor, anything in that realm, they go to like, oh, that ain't me. It's the same thing as when you say mention a doctor. Like I don't go to hospitals because
Yeah.
we ain't walking out of them things and stuff like that. So we just literally we had an event a couple weeks ago called Cuts and Checkups,
Uh-huh.
where we was at the barbershop and we had the medical van out there,
Uh-huh.
and so they could get their hair cut and get checkups. And we literally almost had to pull men in to go
Man.
over there and all they were doing was checking the blood, the blood sugar, of course, um and their blood pressure. Two things,
Mhm.
right? And then they would say, "Hey, you may need to go get it checked out." But it was the hardest thing to get those men to come out and go walk right over there and get those two things checked.
Mhm.
And it took us talking to them and saying, "Hey, man, listen, you don't the worst thing in the world is be sitting in this chair and you can have a stroke or something because your blood pressure's so high that you
Right.
didn't even know." So
Right.
it was kind of like that convincing them and getting them over there. But they did. But one of the things that I guess that's what it is like, how is if I'm talking to you and like, hey, y'all need to go see her. How do we get men to trust and come to go to therapy or get there?
Yeah.
What is something that we could do?
Well, I think a lot of therapists, number one, can do consultations, like free consultations, a 5, 10 minute, maybe 15-minute consultation. That way you can get a feel of who you're talking to, and who may be able to meet and kind of, process some things. I think also not to go into therapy thinking you have to automatically trust someone, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's not natural. On a day-to-day basis, we don't just automatically trust people. We meet people, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
give people a chance to show up and to be consistent so that we can trust. And so just like we do when we meet people at work, or we meet people when we join organizations, we don't know them and they don't know you. So both parties are building a rapport and building a trust. And so maybe if the mentality is, I am going to attempt to trust this person, but I have to give them the space to be able to show me that I can trust them. But vice versa too, because the therapist, we got to make sure you're going up in there and you're willing to do the work, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to give you the opportunity to show up as well. So I think you have to know that coming to therapy is about starting the journey, starting a process, and learning to trust instead of going in there automatically thinking that you're supposed to trust the person that's there. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
know that therapy is not a sign of weakness, but it's a dedicated space for you to talk about whatever it is because it stays there. We are bound by law, and legally, to be able to keep whatever is said there, but we can always take steps when it comes to therapy.
Right.
Uh,
Well, let me ask you a question about that. Will it hurt your feelings? Does it hurt therapist's feelings if this person goes, "Hey, you're not the right one for me"?
Absolutely not. And let me say this, a good therapist wants the person to have the best fit and the person that is going to be the best one to work for them. I am all for that. I can say, you know what, I'm not sure if this is going to be the best. And so it may be that you go and see someone and be like, okay, this isn't going to work out. So I need to go try someone else. That's just like dating. If you are trying to find your person, your partner, you are, don't
Right.
these people, right? But you're getting to know them. And that's the same thing when it comes to a therapeutic relationship. We are getting to know each other to build that rapport, to build that trust. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? You're going to find somebody else, right? So,
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, that's what we do. If you own a business, right, and you hire people,
Hmm.
you don't know them, but you're giving them an opportunity to show up. You're giving them an
Right.
opportunity to show that they can be consistent and be trusted. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? You let them go and you look for somebody else. And so it's
Right.
the same instance, a good therapist cares about what you bring to the table and they're going to nurture that. And the first line of duty is to build a rapport. And it's not to harm you physically or emotionally in any way.
Okay. Okay.
I hope.
I hear that. Yeah, that was great because yeah, I'm sure that's a big question because we started talking about it because the first thing if you a lot of men go is like I don't know I don't from what I've seen and heard I don't trust that but yeah just that knowledge that hey you can say no and go with somebody else you don't have to go with that person just because that's the first person you talk to and stuff
Yeah.
so but because we used to going in there just especially with men. And I'm be honest, I know a lot of men, especially if you men in a relationship with a wife and stuff, you see your wife telling the people what you want them to need to do and stuff like that. So you just sit there quiet and go, okay, whatever you say, okay, and
Mhm.
so we gotta be active in our health and be the ones to say what we like, want, and do and stuff. So that's one of the things definitely. So
Yeah.
let me ask you let me ask you the next question I'm gonna ask you is to at least into that as you know this is with Iota Phi Theta fraternity brotherhood. So a lot of times, even within people don't understand that a lot of times even with fraternity, even though you're joining an organization
Mhm.
and so these you're all part of the organization and stuff, but you still have to learn to build like you said earlier, friendship,
Yeah.
trust, and stuff with these people that you with. It ain't just oh hey we joined and now we automatically all are
Yeah.
best friends.
Right. Not
And
gonna
so right,
happen.
right, and it's also a hard thing to get guys. And like I said, we all men joining, so we don't open up to each other sometimes, and it takes a little bit of that too. So, one of the questions I want to ask is, what role do you think healthy friendships and brotherhood play in emotional health with
Mhm.
guys? As far as that part of it, or
Yeah.
joining a brotherhood, play in emotional health with that.
Yeah, good question. It definitely helps with building like connection, and being able to learn how to trust others. And then also just being not isolated because oftentimes when we're not feeling our best, we're having, these issues internally, we often like to isolate and withdraw. And so what happens is when
Hmm.
you are connected, when you are put together, it increases it releases endorphins, right? And
Hmm.
endorphins in your body is the painkiller. It's the natural painkiller in your body. And so by you having these social interactions, by you connecting with people, you are releasing endorphins for yourself, which is actually a healthy way of being able to decrease any of the negative emotions or the negative physical symptoms that you may be having. So if someone is going into depression, but they have, a moment to socialize and connect with people that they may have something in common with, that they can talk to. It helps to release those endorphins. It helps to increase your dopamine. And those are your feel good chemicals in your body. And so it really does impact, your mental health because it puts you in a better space, versus a negative one. But it creates a support system. It creates the idea that I can talk about my feelings because maybe this person next to me, may have also experienced it or currently feeling that same way. And so having those moments of brotherhood and because I'm in an organization as well, sisterhood, that matters, hanging out with my sorors, is a huge deal. And I can feel so much better hanging out when I leave with them. And you never know what kind of nuggets like your brothers will leave and give you just because you're hanging out for that day. So
Right,
it
right.
really does matter. It's another way of releasing, those endorphins that you really need to kind of help you get out of that rut, to help you get out of a depressive state. It helps to calm you down and to decrease the anxiety that's in your body. So it really does matter by you being connected, and staying connected.
Right. And so that leads me to something like we do a program. I don't know if you've heard about it, Papas and Ponytails, where
Very.
and there yeah, every fair where we do this program where men come in and learn how to do their daughter's hair and stuff
Mhm,
like that, and
mhm,
and it's real big important to us because it's that communication
Yeah.
part of it. Of because as a lot of men dealing with your daughters, you don't get opportunity to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't know. It's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy with boys, but it's a little bit more. You a little bit able to do it, communicating and work with your boys because you are man. But your daughters, you kind of hey, we got to learn. So we do
Yeah.
the program, and so one of the things that we talk about with the guys is that hey, this is an opportunity for you to show them that you aren't just that big hulking guy walking around the house and you know that you have
Yeah.
some kind of emotions in there. So
Yeah.
one of the questions, one of the things we do ask you, fathers, because a lot of them don't understand how or what it is how can they fathers model emotional health for their children?
Oh, that's
Because that's a lot of times what they don't, a lot of people say is that our mom is good at it,
but
but
I
when you don't have mom around, how do dads do that?
Yes, I mean that's a really good question. One is learn to build your own emotional vocabulary, meaning use emotional words. Don't say, I would say, don't say good, fine, right, okay, because they
Hmm.
don't really explain. They don't really
I, yeah,
explain, but you know what I'm saying? Because we can tell somebody, how you feeling? What's going on? How you doing? I'm good. But what
I'm
does that
good. Yep.
actually mean?
Hmm.
Good could have several different emotions up under that, right? So
Hmm.
removing good, fine, right, okay, you know, can give us the more of the ability to say, I am, just indifferent today. I am content today. I am sad today. I'm concerned today. I've been worried all day. I've been happy today. We don't use the term happy a lot or joyful or excited. Think about that. But then the
Right.
words that the kids may hear are the negative ones. So again, you want to actually listen and use your words of feelings. And another thing, we got to stop interrupting people when they're talking. That means
Mm.
interrupting the kids. I don't care if you believe that they are lying to what you're saying, but you let them finish the lie, right? And
Mm.
then you respond to the lie, right? If that's what your child is doing. But interrupting someone when they're speaking, really you're interpreting and saying that what you're saying makes no difference and it's not valuable and I can care less, right? If you're cutting someone off, and this is from parent to child, partner to partner, anybody, right? If we do not
Mm.
allow people to finish their sentence or their thought, then it quickly diminishes them and it causes them to start to be silent. So even when you are upset with your children, you let them talk and finish their sentence. And then you let them, because that still gives them the space that whether we are on good terms or not good terms, I am still able to express myself. And we really have to recognize what that is and that the interrupting really is a huge impact on how we will continue to communicate and share and trust, because it really does say, you know what, I can't trust you with my words. I can't trust you with my heart, because if somebody is expressing their emotions and you're cutting them off, they're going to start blocking you from their heart. So in order to
Mm.
build that, you got to show that you are able to listen, whether you like it or not. You can validate their feelings or their experience, whether you like it or not. Validating does not mean you agree. It just means that you hear them and that you understand that that is their experience. But it doesn't mean that you agree. So we have to begin to do those things. About being able to be open, using our emotions and our feeling words, not interrupting when people are talking, and even just doing check-ins. How are you doing? What has been your feeling today? What are you concerned about today? If you are, how can I support you? That is how you can become a model of having and building emotional awareness, and being able to communicate better with your children.
Mm. man, that's yeah. I,
I
I,
tell my clients all the time when they say, "Oh, I'm good." I know what is that actually? What feeling is under that?
right,
Yeah.
right, right. I listen out, and the reason I'm sitting here shaking my head and laughing because I am terrible about that. I will say in a heartbeat if somebody asks me how are you doing, I'll say I'm here, and
Hmm.
and
What does
and
that
sometimes
mean?
right, and and usually, and I'll be honest, usually the reason I say that is because I don't want you to ask me anymore. You
Uh,
know, you
but
see what I'm saying?
but if that's the case, right? If that is the case, you say, I have been sad today, but I don't feel like talking about it in this moment.
mm,
That's honest and transparency. And that's you using your voice, So
right,
you
right.
don't have to hide your feelings, you know, just be honest with them.
Right. Well, that's a deep thing. You say in there, it sounds simple, but
Yeah.
yeah, when you growing up and you like I said around men and the how you feeling is grunts and groans. That's the answer
Hmm.
you get. You kind of learn to interpret. Okay, they
Hmm.
they well they're still here today, so we're gonna leave it alone.
But at the same time, right, if you're hearing grunts and groans, how do you actually know that they don't want to talk about it? Maybe they're used to not talking about it, right? So
Right.
we need to actually ask, are you okay? Is there something that you want to talk about? I noticed the grunt. Is there something that you want to talk about? If not, okay, just know that I'm here. Because sometimes people are needing help and wanting help or wanting somebody to ask them, hey,
Mm,
um, I'm not feeling too well. Do you want to talk about it? So we don't want to interpret either that we know what those signs are, those nonverbals are.
right.
Because they actually could be a cry for help. And that's even with your kids.
Mm,
Yeah.
true. True.
If they slam the door, don't yell at them for slamming the door. Go to them and say, that is not acceptable. Is there something that you want to talk about?
Mm, mm, mm.
You can still tell
That's
them
it.
that they're wrong. You can still tell them that they're wrong. You can still tell them that they're punished without having to yell. But being able to give them the opportunity to express and say why they slammed that door, it's okay. And you're leaving them
Right.
open and giving them that space.
That's good. So we know that like as you telling us now, you deal with a lot of things on the mental side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess the question is, does that connect or is it closely connected to the physical side as far as things on the mental wise and stuff? Are those two things in the same arena?
Yeah. So what you're asking is, does our mental health connect with our physical health? And the
Right,
answer
right.
is absolutely yes. The reason being is because our brain sends signals to our bodies to tell us what to do or what not to do. And so if the inside of our bodies are filled with irritability and anger and frustration and sadness, it
Mm,
changes how the signals are being sent and communicated between the brain and the body. So if the brain is confused, the body's going to try to figure it out. If the body is confused, the brain is going to try to figure it out. And
mm,
so physically, you can experience like those panic attacks. You can experience like the tension in your body. You can experience, like your heart is racing. You can experience all of these different things because you're not really allowing yourself a release. You're not allowing yourself to go through. You're trying to suppress so much. And so your body gets overwhelmed on the inside. They already got stuff they got to do. You got stomach aches. People have
mm,
headaches. When you got stress overload, people begin to have migraines. So it definitely impacts your mental health. Even when you have a lack of sleep, right? Your brain is not getting what they need, the oxygen to really do what it need to do with the body. So you continue to deprive yourself, with what your brain and your body needs for you to operate at your best. If you're not eating well, if you're not hydrated, the body is going to start asking questions. What's going on here? I can't do my job on the inside. You know,
Right, right.
it
Hmm.
creates a lot of confusion, and it does create more additional issues with your mental health. So getting all of that together, and really being consistent with it, can make you feel at your best and be at your healthiest. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. That's good. So, in other words, get up and go out and exercise when you're feeling down, right? Or walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Because once again, you can get those endorphins you need, that dopamine. That dopamine will motivate you to do more stuff, so the higher your dopamine is, the lower opportunities of having depression, so really, being
Hmm.
physical, and it has a lot to do with it. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and what one of my friends say, he's really into dressing and stuff. He's like, if you dress good, you look good, you feel good. Just mental, all that things together.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I can see it. I can see it.
And then go feel it, right? You see it, right?
Right,
And then
right,
you say, "Oh, I get it. I get it." Now, what is your step? What is your next step, right?
right. So let me. So that leads us to, I got just a few more questions for you and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, well, I want to know how can we as men, right? How can we, and we alluded to a little bit earlier, how can
Yeah.
we like ask for help
Mm-hmm.
without feeling like a failure or feeling like we are, like we're less than for asking for that help? You
Mm.
know, how can how how do you feel like we could do that?
Well, I mean, I think first off, changing your thought process on what it means to actually ask for help. Because,
Hmm.
in all honesty, everyone needs support in something, right? Whatever we do, we can't go through life without having any type of support or assistance. If you need money to get a car, you get a car loan, right? That is your support, right? If your child is not doing their best, in school, you go talk to a teacher, have a conference. That is your support, right? So you really have to think about, like for example, your car. You want to make sure that your car is healthy, right? So somebody
Hmm.
has to go and check and make sure that your car is good and that your car is healthy. You go take it to a car shop, right? So that is your support. That is you getting your help because you can't do everything by yourself, right? And so really asking for help is a sign of wisdom, is a sign of being smart, and it's a courageous act. So maybe getting somebody to go with you to ask for support, someone that you trust, that can help as well with you getting the help that you need, especially when it comes with therapy. But with anything, right? Put yourself out there and know that it's okay, because everybody can't go through life without any assistance and any support. But when you recognize that you need it and you act on it, that's being smart. That's being courageous.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. No,
What's going
I
on over
just,
there?
well, you you don't put wisdom in, like that, the way you put it, as that's wisdom. That's, most of you don't, men don't think of it like that when
Yeah.
ask for help, that's, wisdom or courage. You don't think of it. You just, you know, asking for help is almost like, and I'm going from my thinking and being around men, is that asking for help is almost like I'm being bowing down to you, that I can't do what I'm not man enough to do and stuff.
Yeah.
That wording. And
Yeah.
so, to put that word in there, wisdom, that okay, that's a wise thing to do, is to ask for help. Most men don't hear that throughout their lives. You don't
Yeah.
hear that. You hear, hey, figure, what, as they say, man up, figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a sign of strength, right? You trying to carry it alone and burning is not a sign of strength. You are weakening. If you think of it in a more realistic way, you are weakening yourself by trying to carry it alone. And
Hmm.
so if you're thinking that it's weak, you are weakening yourself by trying to figure it out and carry it and, not really getting assistance when you truly need it. So it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of wisdom. It's being brave.
Right, right. That's true. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, well, listen. So I mean, man, we spoke on a lot of stuff, and I know there's more that
Yeah.
I mean, you can only do so much in sessions like these at a time, or talk about it in sessions like that. This is with most of us at this point in our lives, with me and stuff. This is like a lifetime of deprogramming
Yeah.
and letting go of things that we were taught throughout our life, growing up, and even to today, we're still,
Mhm.
being programmed with a lot of things of, even though the world has become more open to different things with me, it's still a lot of things that that we're not able to do, or think we're not able to do, because we're still told that and it may not be in actual words, but it may be in actions and things like that. That
Yeah.
you still need to act a certain way.
Yeah.
So and tonight, that's what's like tonight. Things like we're doing right now with this conversation, and things that we're doing with the continuing conversation, and even with this this month, mental health month, mental health week, all those things. Um, those are steps, towards getting us to better as far as men. So, one of the things I want to end off with you, is to ask you the question of, if all those that are watching this right now,
Mm-hmm.
at this moment, and all these guys and the women in their lives that love the men in their lives, everybody's watching it. The question that I want to ask is, what is one step that they could take towards better health for themselves tomorrow? What is something that you would recommend?
Mm-hmm.
As far as from your personal self, what would you recommend as a one step that they could take right now for tomorrow to make their health better for tomorrow?
Absolutely. I think maybe one of the first steps is to really identify one habit that you are wanting to make different or to make changes and to acknowledge. So name it and acknowledge it, and then have one step towards making it a little bit better. So there are issues or habits or concerns that we have. Take only one of them, right? For example, if you know that you do not have good sleep, if you do not have good quality sleep, you're going to acknowledge, like, hey, I have poor sleeping habits, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so this is something that I want to change. You do one step to have better sleep habits, right? So it may be, I'm not going to drink any caffeine or alcohol after 8 o'clock. Or even after 6, because it can linger in your body and it can create stimulus, which causes you to, not be able to go to bed like you want to, or maybe I'm going to cut off my electronics 30 minutes before I go to bed, so really taking in the step one at a time, acknowledging it, saying what it is, and then taking one step to be able to make that change.
Mm, that's good. Just one step, one thing.
I mean, small steps matter. Small steps
Right.
matter. And I think people often believe you got to jump from 1 to 100, but it's the journey that really allows you to learn and understand. It's just like building a house from the ground up. It matters with all the steps in between, right? You don't want to
Right.
jump
Right.
1 to 100 and they don't care about what the walls are and how the floor is made. You care about all of those steps, right? So you have to care about taking the small steps to a better habit, to improving the habit that you believe that you have.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's great to hear. I mean, that's good. That's good stuff. And so, like I said, that this is hopefully this is one step that they will take by listening to
That's
this,
it.
and this will help lead to something more, things like
Yeah.
that. And one of the definite things that we want them to lead to is maybe even contacting you. So
Okay.
one of the main things we want to ask, so that's one of the things we got to ask, is how can, if a guy's watching this and he said, "Hey, I love the way she's talking, I love the things she's saying," how can they talk to you or get to you, reach out to you, is
Yeah.
there somewhere they can go, where they can find you and things like
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely. So, if you want to reach out, you can definitely reach out through my website, which is www.breakingcyclescounseling.org. You can also contact me by phone, which is 336-252-2711. Or you can shoot me an email, which is candice.dixon@breakingcyclescounseling.com. And Candice is Dice and Dixon is Dixon. Just to make sure that is correct. But
Right,
definitely
right.
reach out if you feel the need, or if you want a consultation, which is a free consultation, just to kind of talk some things out. And even if I'm not the right person, I can definitely connect you to someone who can. So yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And that's what we want.
Exactly.
And like I
Yeah.
said, my men out here in the world, don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid. We just got to say it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And and definitely this is what we want to bring to the community and bring to our men, because we want to build healthy men who build healthy communities.
Yeah.
And we are an important part of it, men. And this is opportunities that we have in this world to share the knowledge and share the things that we have, because people, they want it from us. Our families, our friends, they want us to be healthy and be there for them.
Yeah.
So it starts with us, dealing with our mental things, and like she said, opening up, and
Mm-hmm.
and being more, conscious of what we're saying and how, our kids are seeing us when we're, the conversations we're having.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to end it by saying, if y'all notice, you probably seen over my head this little funny thing that keeps saying scholarship fundraising 50-50. Well, that's one of our ways to help in our community, men.
Awesome.
We have a scholarship for our young men at North Carolina A&T State University.
All
And we have our fundraiser that we're doing. It's a raffle. It's a raffle. I don't know if you see it.
right.
I'm
Uh-huh.
going to show y'all. It's a raffle. So you can go to our website, gatecityiotas.org, and it's just ask $5, and it help a young man succeed, in school and stuff like that. It's just a little thing that we're trying to do, and it also, you get the opportunity, guys. You win. It's 50-50. So the more we got, the more you win also. So because you in a raffle. But that's one of the things I want to put out before we end our conversation, Ms. Dixon, because we're gonna have her on here more. We're gonna have more conversations, because
I appreciate
one
it.
yeah, 1 month and 1 week is not enough. This is a 365-day. This is an unlearning of years
Mm,
of programming for us men.
mm-hmm.
And so we're going to be talking more. We're going to have, more conversations with you, and we definitely appreciate it. And we want you to realize, hey, we are thankful for everything you do.
I appreciate
Uh,
it.
and then, so definitely in ending this, I want to ask y'all a question, because we got to keep asking it. How are you really doing?
Mm.